Once upon a time, in a kingdom not far from a deep green forest, there lived a young princess who loved to play outside the palace walls. She was proud and lively, and she especially enjoyed taking her favorite toy with her, a golden ball that shone in the sunlight. Near the palace garden there was an old well, cool and dark, surrounded by mossy stones. On warm afternoons, the princess would sit beside it and toss her golden ball into the air, catching it again and again. The ball was her greatest treasure, and she guarded it carefully. But one day, as she played near the well, her hands slipped. The golden ball bounced once on the stone edge and fell, plop, straight into the water. It sank at once into the darkness below. The princess leaned over the well, but she could not see the ball. The water was too deep. She reached down as far as she dared, but her arm could not reach. A tight knot formed in her chest, and she began to cry, louder and louder, until the garden seemed to echo with her sorrow. "Why are you crying so hard?" asked a rough little voice. The princess stopped in surprise and looked around. At the edge of the well, half hidden in the damp grass, sat a frog. He was green and shiny, with bulging eyes that blinked slowly as he watched her. The princess sniffed and wiped her cheeks. "I'm crying because my golden ball fell into the well," she said. "I can't get it back." The frog tilted his head. "I can help you," he said. "But what will you give me if I do?" The princess, still upset, answered quickly, "Anything you want. My dresses, my pearls, my jewels. Anything. Just bring me my ball." The frog shook his head. "I don't care about your jewels," he said. "But if you want your ball again, you must promise me this. You will let me be your companion. You will let me come to your palace. You will eat from your plate, drink from your cup, and sleep near your bed. If you promise that, I will dive into the well and bring your golden ball back." The princess stared at him in disbelief. A frog, in the palace, eating at her table, sleeping near her bed. The thought made her shiver, but she wanted her golden ball so badly that she said, without thinking, "Yes, yes, I promise. Just bring it back." The frog blinked as if he knew she did not mean a word. Still, he turned to the well, pushed off with his webbed feet, and disappeared into the dark water. The princess leaned forward, holding her breath. A moment later, the frog surfaced with the golden ball in his mouth. He paddled to the edge, dropped the ball onto the grass, and looked up at her. The princess's face lit up. She grabbed the ball with both hands, hugged it tightly, and in her joy she forgot everything else. Without another word, she turned and ran back toward the palace, her skirts flying behind her. "Wait!" croaked the frog. "Wait! You promised!" But the princess ran on and did not look back. That evening, when the princess sat at the royal table beside the king and queen, she told them about her day, the sunshine, the garden, the well, and how she had lost her golden ball. She did not mention the promise she had made to the frog, because she was ashamed of it. Just as the meal was being served, there came a sound from the palace door's tap. Tap, tap. Then a voice called out, clear and stubborn, "Princess, open the door." The princess froze. She recognized the voice immediately. Tap, tap, tap. "Princess, open the door," the voice called again. "Remember your promise!" The king looked at his daughter. "Who is calling you?" he asked. The princess's face went red. Slowly she stood and went to the door. When she opened it, there sat the frog, damp and determined, staring up at her. The princess tried to close the door at once, but the king saw what was happening and stopped her. "What is this?" he demanded. The princess, trembling, admitted the truth: the golden ball, the well, the bargain, the promise. The king's expression grew stern. "A promise is a promise," he said. "If you gave your word, you must keep it. Let him in." The princess did not want to, but she could not disobey the king. She opened the door wider, and the frog hopped into the palace, leaving little wet marks on the floor. At the table, the frog hopped right up to her chair and said, "Lift me up." The princess hesitated, disgusted by his cold, slippery skin. But the king's gaze reminded her of her duty. With stiff fingers, she lifted the frog and placed him beside her plate. "Now," said the frog, "push your plate closer. I want to eat with you." The princess's appetite vanished, but she pushed the plate a little nearer. The frog ate happily, and every few bites he said, "That's good. That's very good." When he had eaten his fill, he said, "Now I am tired. Take me upstairs. I want to sleep near your bed." At this, the princess almost cried again. "I can't," she whispered. "He can't sleep in my room." But the king spoke firmly. "You will not turn away someone who helped you when you were in trouble," he said. "You must do what is right." So the princess, miserable and angry, carried the frog upstairs. She held him at arm's length, as if he might stain her just by being near. In her bedroom, the frog pointed toward the pillow and said, "Put me on your bed." The princess's anger rose like fire. She had been humiliated in front of the court, forced to share her table, and now a frog was ordering her about in her own room. She clenched her fists. "You disgusting frog!" she shouted. "After all this, you still demand more!" In a burst of fury, she grabbed the frog and threw him against the wall. The moment he struck the wall, something strange happened. Something like a shimmer in the air, like light bending in water. The frog fell to the floor, but instead of a frog, there lay a young prince, handsome and pale, wearing fine clothes as if he had stepped out of a dream. The princess gasped and stumbled back. "What? Who are you?" The prince rose slowly, rubbing his shoulder where he had hit the wall. He looked at her with a mixture of relief and sadness. "I am a prince," he said. "I was cursed by a wicked enchantment. I was trapped in the form of a frog. And only when a princess treated me as a true companion, bringing me into her home and keeping her promise, could the curse be broken." The princess stared, shocked and confused. "But I didn't treat you kindly," she whispered. "I was angry. I threw you." The prince's gaze softened. "You still brought me in," he said. "You still placed me at your table. You did not keep the promise gladly, but you did not break it entirely." And the curse had reached its end. At that moment, there was another sound outside the palace. Hooves on stone, and the clink of harness. The prince stepped to the window and smiled. "My faithful servant has been searching for me for years," he said. He refused to believe I was lost. Down in the courtyard stood a carriage, and beside it a strong man with a kind face. Around the man's chest were iron bands, as if he wore a strange armor. The princess and the prince went down to meet him. The servant looked at the prince, recognized him at once, and cried out with joy. The sound of it seemed to crack something in the air. The iron bands around his chest snapped open and fell to the ground. The princess startled. "What are those?" she asked. The servant wiped tears from his eyes. "When my prince vanished," he said, "my heart was so heavy with grief that I feared it would break apart. So I had iron bands made to hold it together. And now that I see him alive, the banns are no longer needed. The king, having heard the commotion, came to the courtyard with the queen. The prince told them his story, the curse, the loneliness, the long years of waiting. The king listened carefully, and when he saw the prince's honesty and gratitude, his sternness eased into approval. In time, the prince asked the king for the princess's hand. The princess, now calmer, thought of the frog at the well, how he had kept his part of the bargain without hesitation. And she understood something important. That pride can make a person blind, and that promises mean little if they are spoken lightly. She agreed. Soon a wedding was held, and the kingdom celebrated. The prince's faithful servant drove the carriage, smiling as though the world had become whole again. And the princess, who had once judged by appearances, learned to honor her word and to look more carefully at the hearts of others. And so they lived, as fairy tales say, happily ever after.